guys, I'm Conscious Candace. And I'm Scully, and we are so honored to have you here today. This is officially my second video, and as promised, today I'll be taking you guys through some of the building blocks that I used in the beginning to make sure that I have a smooth recovery. Now, as I mentioned last time, I am not a medical professional, so please always make sure to check with your doctor or your physical therapist before making any changes to your routine. Now, before I go into some of the hacks and some of the things that made my journey as smooth as possibly can be after breaking my ankle, let's talk a little bit about the anatomy, and Scully here is going to help us understand. So if we look at our ankle is basically made up of 3 bones. Now these bones are the tibia, which is basically this thick bone that runs down from your knee right down to your foot. And then you've got your fibula, which is the bone on the right. It's much thinner and it runs on the outside of your leg. And then at the bottom, you have your talus, which basically makes up the 3 bones that make up your ankle. Now, obviously, these 3 bones don't work in isolation. Teamwork is very important in our skeleton. You've got muscles, you've got collagen, you've got ligaments, you've got all sorts of things around the system that help you to stand, to walk, to jump, and to do the day-to-day activities that you do. And obviously, you've got the bones in your foot as well as your toes that make walking possible. And we'll unpack that more during this journey. Thank you, Scully. Now, I broke my fibula and my tibia, which is basically the 2 bones running down my foot, running down my leg. Now, if you broke your tibia only, or you only broke your fibula, your recovery journey may actually be different. And that's because the fibula, which is the bone that runs on the outside, is actually not a weight-bearing bone. So when you stand, the bone in your leg that takes most of the weight is actually your tibia, which is the bone that runs on the inside. Let's invite Scully back so he can just remind us which bones those are. So there's Scully. You've got your fibula, which is the bone on the outside, and this is a bone that obviously connects the rest of your foot, provides you stability. And then you've got your tibia, which is the bigger bone on the inside, which is actually the bone that takes most of your weight. So you may hear somebody, for example, say they broke their fibula and within 3 weeks or so they were walking and prancing around in heels. It's quite possible. Why? Because this is not a weight-bearing bone. It doesn't bear that much weight. So you'll find that if you break this side of your ankle, you may recover quicker, right? So doctors say it takes about 6 to 8 weeks for your bone to fully heal. And then obviously you start applying weight after that. But everybody's journey is different. So I must just point this out. And then obviously if you break your tibia, it does mean you may have a longer recovery period because this bone requires much more time to recover fully. Thank you, Scully. Now, if you break 2 of the 3, this is called a bimalleolar fracture. And then if you break all 3 of them, it's called a trimalleolar fracture. And there are different types of fractures, guys. It gets very, very complex. That's why I say that every person's journey is different. Now, as I noted in my video last time, I had ORIF, which is open reduction internal fixation, which basically means that I had a set of screws and plates put into my ankle to stabilize it and to help in my recovery. Now, if you've had ORIF surgery like me and you walking around with some screws in your ankle, this may also lengthen your recovery period because obviously your body now needs to adjust to this foreign metal that's inside it. But that's basically it. Before we get into the hacks and the tips and tricks that I applied to recover fully, let's maybe talk a little bit about bone anatomy. A little refresher. I won't go into too much detail, but this is pivotal foundational knowledge for us to actually understand why nutrition and our daily routines are so important in the beginning. Now, if you watched my very first video, this picture would be very familiar. This picture basically shows the 5 stages of bone healing. The first stage, which is hematoma, is absolutely immediate after you get a bone fracture, and this is basically comprised of bleeding at the fracture site and blood clotting. The second stage, which is basically inflammation, is when your body releases cells, including stem cells, and starts healing and starts the healing process. This is also when it starts forming granular tissue and starts repairing.
Now, this happens within hours and it releases immune cells as well as initiating tissue repair. After that, you get your soft callus, which basically happens around 2 weeks. And this is basically when new tissue is formed. And this is when you get collagen and cartilage and the bone matrix coming together. And at this stage, we also see a lot of blood flow. Now, after the stage is when you get the hard callus, and this basically happens between 2 to 6 weeks. And this is when your bone starts really getting stronger, and that network that makes up the bone matrix starts getting thicker. After that is the remodeling stage, and this is basically where the bone starts getting more solid and stronger. Now, if we look at the nutrients that we need, protein is very important for tissue and muscle repair. As I mentioned, we need calcium and vitamin D as well for bone remodeling, and this is important especially at the remodeling stage once we start walking and when we get put on a rehab plan. And it's very easy at this point to neglect everything and think that you're in the clear, but actually at this point calcium and vitamin D become even more important. Now, we also have zinc, magnesium, and vitamin C, which is very important for collagen synthesis, which is basically what happens when you get your soft callus. And also, we need to make sure that your immune system is strong enough for your healing.
So now that we understand the bone recovery process a little bit better, let's talk a little bit about why we need more energy while we're recovering. Now, if you've broken your ankle like me and you were put on bed rest, I'm sure you were laying there thinking, I'm not burning any calories, I'm not doing anything, my body is literally static. What is going on? Well, I'm here to tell you that while you're in recovery, your body is actually hard at work, and you need actually more energy to get through the day and to have surplus to make sure that you recover. Now, on a normal day, you would burn about 1,400 to 2,000 calories a day, and that's just doing your normal day-to-day routine. You haven't gone to the gym, you haven't done anything crazy like that. Now, if you break your ankle and you have a fracture that requires healing, you will need about 10 to 15% more of your daily calories just to make sure that you've got enough to get going and you've got enough to actually fully heal your bone properly. Now, for an average sized person, you're looking at about 300 to 600 extra calories a day. And that sounds a lot, right? But that's basically how much you need, because your body is hard at work creating a new bone from scratch. Now, if we look at some of the essentials, there are 3 building blocks that I found to be quite helpful based on the research that I did and obviously applying it in my recovery. Now, protein is obviously very important. Speak to any bodybuilder out there, they will talk about their macros and their protein and their high protein shakes, etc. And that is no different when you're recovering from such an injury, especially if you've injured some ligaments and some tendons and even some of your muscles. You are going to need protein to repair the tissue and help it get stronger. And now you're looking at about 1.5 to about 2 grams per kg that you weigh. So what you'll need to do is weigh yourself. I know some of us are scared of the scale. That's one that I'm one of those people. I'm terrified of the scale, but sometimes you have to do it. So step on the scale, find out what your weight is, and then for every kg, you're gonna need about 1.5 to 2 grams of extra protein a day. Okay, now the second thing that you'll need is basically calcium and vitamin D. And I'm saying calcium and vitamin D because it's best that you have them in pairs. And why do you need this? Well, obviously you need it for bone remodeling. Everybody knows your bones need lots of calcium, but it's always best to take both of them because they're quite pivotal in our journey. And I'll unpack a little bit more in terms of why those are important. The third building block is also made up of 3. It's made up of zinc, magnesium, and vitamin C. And basically this is for strengthening your immune system, making sure that your tissues can create collagen. Overall health is what I was trying to say. Sorry about that, guys. My battery died. So now that we know why we need more energy and why we need to make sure that we're getting enough nutrients and vitamins, proteins, etc. into our bodies, let's go into actually what I use during my journey. Now, I'm not a medical professional, so always check with your doctor before making any changes to your routine. Let's talk a little bit about what I took and how it fits into these building blocks.
Now, this was my fighter. I would have a shot of this every single morning. Apple cider vinegar with honey and turmeric filled with vitamin C. as well as great for inflammation. I always start my day with a green juice, which is loaded with vitamin B, source of iron, as well as vitamin C. And there you can see some of the nutrients in it. Another one that I have sometimes is ginger juice, which is really great. It's got vitamin C and it also helps with inflammation. It's really, really great for your body. It settles your tummy, especially after surgery when you've got a lot of those drugs coursing through your body. And obviously it's very high in vitamin C, which is really great for collagen production as well as just overall health. Now, I would always have this after lunch. It's filled with vitamin C as well as B3 and B6 as well as dietary fiber. And like I said, guys, zinc and selenium are absolutely amazing for healing, especially for your skin. And they also boost your immune system. Magnesium is really, really great for muscle repair and muscle recovery, and also making sure that those nerves are taken care of. And of course, you can see my sausages there in the background, which I have for protein. Now, elevation is really, really important, guys, at this point. So when I was in a cast, I spent a lot of time elevating my foot, as you know, nose to toe, to make sure that the blood circulates well, and also to make sure that the inflammation is decreased by keeping it above your heart. Now let's go into my daily routine. Like I said, I would always start my day with a green juice, which is packed with vitamins, it's packed with iron, really great for strengthening myself. And then later on, I would have a lunch, which is very high in protein, as you can see here. These are the proteins that I would usually have for lunch, as well as some carbohydrates and green leafy vegetables that are filled with iron. Dinner, chicken curry with some mini naan bread, which is filled with minerals, filled with vitamins. And this is me in my kitchen sitting on my office chair, which basically enabled me to cook when I was not able to stand. So for quite a while, I would name myself the one-legged chef, because I would make all of my meals sitting on my office chair. And I'm just going to share some other pictures of some meals that I really enjoyed while I was still recovering. Some prawn and chicken curry with rice, loaded with some good stuff. A bunless burger filled with protein and some good carbohydrates from the chips, as well as a nice carrot and turmeric juice, which is great for inflammation and filled with vitamin C. Another high protein meal, which is filled with great vitamins. And of course, my favorite snack, chickpea chips, and a yummy salad.
And that's it for today, guys. I hope you've enjoyed this video, and if you've loved it, please make sure to click the like button. Please subscribe so that you never miss my content. I'll be trying my best to post content as regularly as possible, and I'll be covering different topics. In my next video, I'll be covering some hints and tips in terms of how to use crutches, how to navigate around the house if you're on one foot, etc, etc, etc. And obviously we'll be going into more detail in terms of healing from an ankle fracture. And if you like this video and you've enjoyed this content and it shed a little bit of light in your journey, please press like, please share with somebody that you think might benefit from it, and please do join the family and subscribe so that you never ever miss my content. And until next time, goodbye.